interesting, fun. If you're, you know, a history nerd of American history, you gotta watch John Adams. It's about his life, and you know, it shows him in Philadelphia and meeting all the different, you see like Thomas Jefferson, they're at the Declaration of Independence. It's a good mini-series. And then we have the Philippa Gregory series, we'll call it, which she writes. I actually really like her books. She kind of invents female history, if that makes sense. A lot of history is written by men, which is great. You know, we want to hear the men's side too, but there isn't a lot of female recorded history. So basically what Philippa Gregory does is she takes documents and things from history and tries to kind of like imagine what the perspective of different famous women in history was like, specifically in British history. And there's 3 different adaptations of shows. If you saw The Other Boylan Girl, this is like the show version, and there's a lot more to it, but there's lots of politics and intrigue, and there's also romance, obviously, but it's really great, and I think underrated. So you can see The White Queen, which is probably my favorite of the 3. I'd say these actually go in order of my favorite. So you have the White Queen, then you have the White Princess, and then you have the Spanish Princess. And funnily enough, if you watch these, there's a lot of Game of Thrones actors that are like in these. So if you're missing certain actors, you can find them in these shows. But it kind of has that similar vibe of like, if you enjoyed King's Landing arcs in Game of Thrones, I think you'll like these 3 shows. Really good, really well made. All right. We are down to mysteries. We're getting there, guys. We're getting there. I wasn't kidding when I said mega streaming. All right. So mysteries. We've got Dublin Murders. This was cool because I liked that it was set in Ireland, and oh, I just thought of another show set in Ireland, you guys. And I really already covered that part. Okay, we're just gonna talk about it here for a second. Okay, so not a mystery, but it's in a high quality drama. And you could also call it high quality historically inspired because it's technically set in like the 90s or something. Normal People, such a good show. Highly recommend. It's a love story, but it's a really well done love story. Set in Ireland as well. I'll leave like some information below about it. Back to mysteries. Dublin Murders, set in Ireland, which is probably part of why I really liked it, because it was cool and different. Kind of your standard murder mystery, but just a really enjoyable show. Moriarty, that's a fun anime. I'm on episode like 20, so I felt like I could recommend it at this point. It was really well made, and it's cool because it's the perspective of Sherlock's nemesis. I guess you could have put this in the shows that make you think also. Like if you like Death Note, I think you'll like Moriarty and vice versa. But yeah, it's a cool spin, and it kind of makes Moriarty, you see more about his morality, I guess, or his values and morals and what he thinks is right or wrong. It's very fascinating. And you kind of see Sherlock as more of like the antagonist. All right. And last but not least, on mysteries, you have Sherlock, the British one, the British made, and it's very good too. I would almost watch Sherlock and Moriarty at the same time. That'd be kind of fun. It's a great quality show. Sherlock is. It's especially season 1. Highly recommend it. It's about the story of Sherlock, but it's just done very well. All right, we're on to Quirky Comedies. We're almost there, kind of. All right, we've got Yuri on Ice. Yuri on Ice is great. It is about 2 ice skating players. Well, ice skaters, and their relationship. And this Yuri is from Japan, and he's thinking about quitting. But things turn around when he gets a new coach. And it's just a really cool, it gets into the psychology of ice skaters too. Just a really fun show. Next we have Sex Education. This is a British show. I think it's really important. It, talks about a lot of issues that can be uncomfortable to talk about in real life, but I think are important to know about. And I think it's a very psychologically healthy show. I love the main character, Otis. I think he's really just sweet kid, and his mom is funny, and I don't know, it's just like a joy to watch. We have Schitt's Creek. This is a Canadian show. It's made by a father and son duo, and it's about this rich family who lose everything. And they have to learn how to basically get by in this really tiny town. And they have to learn basically to make human connections, and they can't get by on their money anymore. And it's just a really great show. Next, we have Dairy Girls. This is a Irish show, again. And it's about the Troubles, but it's a comedy. I really enjoyed this show. It was fun. It wasn't perfect, but I like it. If you're looking for like just a solid comedy, kind of like Bridesmaids-y, but Irish and about a totally different time period, check that show out. Kim's Convenience. This is a Canadian show again. This is about a Korean family. They own a convenience store in Canada. And it's just this one doesn't really make me laugh out loud as much, but it's just a really enjoyable show to watch their family, their dynamics, and kind of, it's almost like a real life slice of life, if that makes sense, show. The last recommendation for comedies is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. If you liked Gilmore Girls, which I did, and you liked the writing style of Gilmore Girls, I think you'll like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's just really entertaining. It's about this comedian in the 50s. She's a housewife, and at least originally, and her husband cheats on her, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to try to be a comedian. And it's a great show. Now we are on to cool international action. First, we have Lupin. I loved this show. This is fun. He is inspired by, it's a French show. He's inspired by the Lupin, who is a guy who like kind of dresses up and he steals things, but I think it's usually for moral reasons. I'm not totally sure because I haven't read the books, but he's inspired by the books. And his dad was falsely accused of stealing from this very wealthy guy who his dad was working for. He was framed, and then eventually he was murdered in prison, I believe. Or no, he committed suicide in prison. Sorry if this is a bit too much spoilers, but this is kind of like the first episode. Anyways, Lupin, you get to see him do all sorts of cool costume changes and like dress up as different things. It just really kind of has that fun heist vibe, but it also has this story, this arc of him trying to avenge his father, learn more about this really wealthy guy, and it's just a really good show. The other one I have on Cool International Action is Hunters. This is about a bunch of, a group of people who decide to hunt down Nazis who got away with horrible things in World War II. Apparently it's based on a true story. It's a good show. I still don't know how I feel about the ending, but we won't get into that here. All right, now we're on for when you want to chill. You're stressed, you just want to chill, you want something that's going to relax you. All right, number one, we have Legend of Korra. I thought Legend of Korra was good, but I don't know if I would put it at the same level as Avatar for me. But I loved watching it when I just wanted to like chill at night, have a nice tea, like I am right now, but it's not night. Just a great show. It's sort of a sequel to Avatar, but not. It's set in the same world. If you haven't seen Avatar or Legend of Korra or Avatar, then I recommend just checking out Avatar first, for sure, because Legend of Korra will make less sense if you watch it first. Next is the Great British Baking Show. This is nice. It's just it's like a competition, but it's better than the American competitions because everyone kind of gets along and they cheer each other on and they just bake stuff, and it's just really relaxing, and the announcers will talk about like what the person's baking and what's in it, and they have cool little animations, and I love it. And it's great for this time of year, I feel like, too. Next, we have a Korean drama called Nevertheless. This is a romance, 100% straight up. It's about these students at like an art studio and all the different relationships that sort of form from them all being at the art studio. The soundtrack in this show is so relaxing. Every song was really well picked, which is kind of why I put it in here. And the show I just found was really, I would make me fall asleep. It's a decent show. I'm not trying to offend people who are nevertheless fans, but it made me fall. It was just a really nice, relaxing show. I was not stressed watching it at all. Next is actually Snow White with the White Hair. You could also put this in fantasy, but I wasn't as obsessed with it as my other picks, so I put it here. But it's a very relaxing, more laid-back fantasy, which is nice. It's about this red-haired girl. Basically, no one else is red-haired, so her the prince tries to basically make her be a concubine. Well, she gets out of that kingdom really quickly, and she decides to study to be a herbalist. And so it's her journey in this new kingdom. It's really good anime, and I recommend it for when you're wanting to chill. The last is The Saint's Magic Powers Omnipotent. I don't know if this show was necessarily amazing, but it was very relaxing, and it was another one where she's kind of trying to be like a healer or an herbalist. This is actually an isekai. She gets brought to another world, but everyone thinks that her and this other person are both brought, and they all think that the other person is the saint. So she kind of just is okay, whatever, and learns to be an herbalist. Just a very relaxing show. All right. For when you want to just be entertained, we got to start with number 1, Warrior Nun. This is a fun show. It's like a sci-fi fantasy show where angels and demons are from another dimension, and she's, joins the nuns to fight them, and it's just fun. I just love the show, but it starts out kind of and that's why I put it in for when you want to just be entertained more than high quality sci-fi. Next we have Dota Dragon's Blood. This show, the animation's beautiful. I thought it was a really entertaining show, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite. It's about a guy who fights dragons and very high fantasy-y. I really enjoyed it. I don't know how other people felt about it. I haven't really heard anything about it. I know it's based off a video game that I haven't played, but I liked it. Next is Terrace House. Now, I've been watching this a bunch now. I've been watching the 2018 season, and Shion and Tsubasa are the best. I love this show because it's kind of if you want to watch, it's a way better version of the real world. It's a classier version to me. And also it's Japanese, which is cool. And I like too that they have all these comedians react to it. So you get kind of the show of these 6 people living in a house together, and then you get the comedians react a couple times, and it honestly makes me laugh out loud, which I don't laugh out loud at that many shows, but this is a really entertaining show, so had to put it on here. One other reality show I wanted to put on here is Love is Blind. This is interesting more to me because of the psychology thought experiment of basically these people don't see each other, and they decide if they want to get married before ever seeing each other. And then they have a couple weeks of getting to know each other once they do see each other and decide if they want to get married and all this stuff. And it's very interesting. I mean, it's not the best show ever, but I don't know. I found it a fascinating concept, so I had to put it on here. Next we have Bridgerton. This is by the same person who did Grey's Anatomy. It's a very entertaining show. It's not the best show I've ever seen, but I really like the vibe and sort of the drama of it. It's kind of like a Pride and Prejudice show, but more contemporary. It even uses contemporary music, but the show is actually set in the 18 or 1900s England or something like that. It also reminds me of Gossip Girl. There's this person who's writing different scandals about people. So if you like Gossip Girl, you should watch this show. All right. We have a few more. The Flight Attendant is a great show. This is kind of like a murder mystery drama comedy show. It's just very entertaining. I really enjoyed it. It's about a flight attendant. She ends up having a one-night stand with this guy, and then he's brutally murdered, and she doesn't remember anything because she got too drunk that night. And you get to find out what happened. Next we have The Rook. This was kind of a cool concept. It wasn't the best done, but it was cool. It was all these different people have different powers, and they're another detective agency. But So this person though, she like loses all her memory. So she's going to this agency without really knowing who's on her side and who's not. And she knows she's being threatened and she has to like figure out the mystery of her past and who she is. Last we have Fenna, Pirate Princess. I thought Fenna was really strong in the beginning, but the ending I thought was just okay. So I put it here. It's really good. It's really entertaining. You get to see this girl travel around the world kind of, and she starts out escaping with these people from her childhood because she's about to be sold into being like a concubine. So she gets out of that, which is nice, and then she has to solve this bigger mystery. It's kind of like Indiana Jonesy. Documentaries, in case anyone else is into that. There were two I found pretty interesting. I don't know how historically accurate they were, but I watched the whole thing. And that was Roman Empire Commodus and The Last Tsars. Both were really good. Just thought I'd add that in there just in case anyone wanted some history comedy or historical documentaries. I made a huge mega streaming video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and please consider liking and subscribing. Also, let me know if you want me to analyze any of the shows I mentioned or talk about them more. I can make a more in-depth video if I haven't already. See you guys in the next one. Goodbye.